Welcome to the Fostering AfterCare Podcast. I'm your host, Angie. This show is built around the long way home, a 3-season journey into what it means to heal after foster care. Each season, we'll walk a different stretch of the road together. Here, in Season 1, we're exploring disenfranchised grief, the silent, complicated losses that come after aging out of foster care. Grief that often goes unseen, unspoken, or misunderstood. This is a space to name that grief, to heal out loud, and to remember that even if the road is long, you don't have to walk it alone. This episode is sponsored by, no, I'm just playing. I'm not going to become an ad. My husband always says that, like, oh, they're becoming an ad, like on YouTube and stuff, when the ads pop up, or when just randomly in the middle of the video, they're just all of a sudden become an ad. But seriously, this episode is sponsored by the Empty Frames Initiative. It's an organization that empowers orphaned and vulnerable youth as they transition out of state care by providing life skills, counseling, community, and access to the gospel. I'll be talking a little bit more about my connection with them, but for now, you can learn more at fillingemptyframes.org. Hey, so before we begin, I want to share a quick disclaimer. The conversations we have here on Fostering AfterCare may bring up difficult emotions or memories. So please be mindful of your own well-being as you listen. If at any point you need to pause, take a break, or just come back later, give yourself that space. Some of you are dealing with deeply repressed and suppressed emotions. And so I really invite you to take that space for yourself. And if you find yourself needing more support than just a deep breath, or taking a break is still not giving you relief, I encourage you to reach out to trusted community, mentors, or professional mental health and wellness resources. Again, you don't have to carry these things alone. So, what do I do now? That was the question circling in my mind the summer I aged out of foster care. I was attending North Carolina Central University, clinging to my classes while my personal life teetered on the edge. When the system that had promised to step in as my guardians, as my parents, suddenly stepped out, it felt cold and sterile, like the air in a hospital room that is technically clean but feels void of warmth or comfort. My stay at my last foster home ended abruptly because of how the CARS agreement worked at the time in North Carolina. There was no conversation, there was no meeting, and no chance to address concerns or accusations. I was told by email to pack my things based on accusations from my foster parent. Under that agreement at the time, if either the young person or the foster parent no longer wanted the arrangement, that was enough to prompt the young person to need to leave immediately. So that contract ended immediately. In practice, though, it often meant a young person would be displaced or without a home overnight with no plan, no support, and no warning. For us, aging out is often less of a transition and more of an eviction. With just 1 week to find housing, I leaned on the few, well, really a couple family members I was in communication with. My aunt lived 3,000 miles away in Washington state. My dad lived 2 hours away up north near the Littleton, Roanoke Rapids, Weldon area. And with their help and the money I had saved from tutoring online, I found a Craigslist room for like $450 a month. My dad ended up driving up to my foster parents' home, and he helped me load up the car as I anxiously headed toward the new space that I would be living in. I had met up with the landlord at a Bojangles, and I was like, well, I mean, it's good enough. No, like, thorough, searching or anything about looking into the whereabouts of who this woman was. And I know she had 3 other housemates. And it was scary. I mean, what was I getting myself into? I didn't know. So once I arrived and I unpacked a few of my things, much of my things I kept packed. And side note, I realized even only recently, like last year, I started realizing that I struggled with just fully unpacking my stuff. I don't know if you can relate, but that was something that this year I was like, I need to fully unpack, decorate this space and make it our home for however long we're going to be here. So anyway, I unpacked a few of my things, not all of my things at the time. I shuffled the room around to try to create an ambiance that would feel more cozy for me. And my dad had helped me in the ways he could, but I wouldn't see him again for another year or so. So it was just me, and I knew my focus was on school. I was about to start summer classes. I did my best to stretch my income that I had from tutoring to cover rent and daily Uber rides. Anybody know about Uber? It is not cheap. And even back then, I think it was 2015. Yeah, like 10 years ago. That's crazy. So yeah, some days I walked the long 2-hour stretch from a taxing day of university classes in the scorching, unforgiving summer heat in North Carolina. I did not have a plan. Most of us do not. For thousands of young people like me, the day the system leaves is the day that question, what do I do now, echoes the loudest. And I want to pause here and also be honest about what was going on simultaneously with me spiritually at the time. So around this season, I had started questioning my faith, which was in God of the Bible. I felt like the Bible had too many contradictions in this moment. I was wrestling with whether God was even real anymore. If the Bible even made sense, if it was just a book of stories. One night in my dorms, a little bit prior to this, a friend told me, God isn't real. Actually, we are the gods within ourselves. It was the first time I had ever heard that concept, and it really stuck with me. It just kind of started, I feel like, chipping away at what I believe to be true. And at the time, I really wasn't like reading and studying the Bible. I think I read like scriptures here and there. Um, and so I started looking up, like, does the Bible contradict itself and things like that? And something that I've learned over the years is whatever you look up, you will find cited sources to support whatever it is. You will find, you know, is the earth round? You'll have a bunch of cited scholarly sources to say it is. And also on the flip side, you could say, is the world flat? And you'll find cited sources that say that as well. And so that's kind of where I was, what is the truth? What does that mean for me? And so it led me down a road of discovery. It's a journey you'll continue to hear more about as this podcast unfolds. So let's look at the data. In some states, aging out happens at 18, and in others, up to 26. When I was in North Carolina at the time, it was up to 21 under the CARS agreement. And if we back it up a home before my last foster home, I was 19. I was in my second to last foster home, and I was working at the SPCA, going to school while simultaneously carrying the weight of trauma and relationship struggles and so many other things in between, while desperately trying to figure out how to stay afloat. I stayed quiet to avoid conflict, but unfortunately, my foster parents misinterpreted my silence as rejection, or in their words, quote unquote, being stuck up. Which, by the way, how am I acting stuck up if I'm in foster care? I just want to know what I had to be stuck up about. Like, what? That misinterpretation was so far off what was actually happening. In those moments, and due to various actions, I experienced what felt like judgment instead of benefit of the doubt or patience. Like, I just got there. It's going to take some time. Like, I need some time to settle into what's going on. And determine, like, if you guys are safe people to open up with, or, otherwise, what would be the point if I'm just going to leave anyway, or I'm going to be sent away? Like, to settle in and get to know you, what would be the point? For many of us who aged out, the places we were supposed to call home didn't feel like home at all. Instead of graced, we often felt judged. The way I think about it is like the foundation of a house. Every strong house starts with a clear blueprint, a plan for how to lay the foundation, where the walls go, how the house will stand. But imagine this. You're handed a blueprint, yet no one explains how to read it. You've never taken classes how to do it, like you're at a loss. And you've never seen one before. The lines and the numbers don't make sense to you, and you're expected to figure it all out on your own. Then, before you even have a chance to understand, the blueprint is taken away. You're moved to another foster home, handed a brand new blueprint, and left just as confused as before. Again and again, home after home, each time you're starting over with no clarity and no consistency. By the time we age out, what we hold in our hands isn't a solid plan. It's fragments, pieces of blueprints that don't match, don't line up, and don't tell us how to actually build anything strong and lasting. Yet, on the day we leave care, we're expected to build a whole house on our own. We're expected to create a stable life out of unstable pieces. To answer confidently that heavy question. So what do I do now? But here's the truth. When the foundation you're given has holes, the house you try to build is always at risk for cracking or falling. Until someone teaches us how to use the blueprint, until we have the support to pour the foundation and build on it with care, things will keep collapsing and we'll keep wondering why. And that's the reality for so many of us who age out. The blueprints were never clear or ever there. The foundation was never laid, and those holes remain long after the case closes. And the data shows what those holes lead to. Many of us are not new to this information. We've heard it a lot. But for those that haven't, or for me, even like when I'm looking at this, I'm like, still in 2025, this is still going on. So, and according to National Foster Youth Institute, 1 in 4 youth will experience homelessness within 4 years of aging out. We're also at risk of unemployment, early parenthood, and involvement with the justice system. Many of us face vulnerability to trafficking. And while most young adults in the U.S. continue relying on parents for financial or housing support into their mid-20s, young people in foster care are cut off much, much earlier. Brain science tells us the frontal lobe, which governs decision-making, doesn't fully mature until about age 25, give or take. It depends on the person. And yet, foster care support often ends years before that. So for me, I was 20. And for others, depending on the state, it could be again 18, or if you ran away, or your experience was different. I mean, that's a huge gap. What can we expect to happen when resources and relationships and young people's only direct connection to these are removed right in the middle of such a critical stage of development? So for me, what stung wasn't just losing housing or the financial stress. It was the grief of another failed relationship layered on top of everything else. Connections built in care often fade or completely disappear the moment the file closes. And that feels like abandonment again, because I thought the people who work in the system that I was a part of was supposed to stay in my life, and that they agreed to step in as my parents. But those outside of foster care have their parents' love and support forever. They don't age out of their family. I was fortunate, though. I did have my guardian ad litem and my adolescent therapist reconnect with me later in life. And they've stood with me through milestones like planning my wedding and hosting my baby shower. I now call them aunt and sister. I was even able to reconnect with a foster parent who shows up when she can. But for many, those relationships never return. And when the few people you trust disappear, the safety net disappears with them. If we want better outcomes, we have to strengthen the entire ecosystem. This is what I believe needs to change. Because right now, it's not just youth who are struggling. All of those who mean well, foster parents, case workers, therapists, guardian ad litems, or CASAs are all susceptible to burnout, life circumstances, tragedy, and good old just human error. I've thought about my own experience. those of my siblings and all of the young people I've been in contact with or had the honor of hearing, reading, watching their experiences over the past 10 years. And when adults step away, whether through resignation, exhaustion, or lack of support, the impact to youth is clear. And those youth lose the fragile connections they desperately need. So, for a moment, imagine this. Imagine if caregivers had access to consistent counseling and it was incentivized. Is that the word? Yeah, incentivized. Imagine if professionals had peer groups to lean on. Imagine if communities received training to sustain bonds beyond case files. Instead of this narrative of until 18 or until 21, like we need these relationships to be ongoing and without an end date, especially because we meet these adults during critical times of development. And that's how we prevent foster care from being another layer of trauma on top of the original pain. If foster care was truly designed as a place to heal from the reasons we entered the system, I truly believe the outcomes would look different. But intention is proving not to be enough. I mean, you can intend to care for a young person with diverse and deep layered traumatic childhood experiences until they are considered an adult at 18, and a few weeks in, you realize you are ill-equipped and you also don't really have much support yourself. So how in the world are you going to keep going? And how in the world are you going to be able to support the young person? That result is the young person is cycled through another placement. And that leaves a lasting effect. It takes sustained support, ongoing care for everyone involved. Aging out should never feel like being shoved off a ledge. It should feel like stepping into a larger room with people on every side just wrapping around you, ready to walk with you outside the door into the real world. But this time you would feel supported. The question, so what do I do now, should be met with open doors, steady voices, and hands that don't let go. Even if your landing wasn't soft, your story isn't over. Healing and connection are still possible. So I want to pause and take a moment to talk about today's sponsor, the Empty Frames Initiative. I first met Miriam, their founder, back in 2017 while I was working in Durham, North Carolina. Since then, their team has been steadfast in providing life skills, community, and gospel hope for young people who have aged out of foster care. In 2019, they hosted a gallery based on the book, The Story of Foster Care, that I was a co-author in. And this book uplifted the voices and photography of those of us with foster care experience, as well as foster parents and social workers, to raise awareness around foster care. I'm saying foster a lot. I had the honor of being both featured in and attending that gallery as it toured across North Carolina. It was such a beautiful moment, and that experience reminded me how much my story mattered. I remember Miriam at the time had me create some clay necklaces out of my photography. Oh, that was so inspiring. And it reconnected me to my artistry in a way that just really fueled me to keep creating, to share stories that heal, and to lean more into holistic healing and wellness. It even ignited my love for photography again and showed me the power of creativity alongside advocacy. This fall, Empty Frames Initiative will be celebrating their 10-year anniversary, so they've been doing this for a while, in Waco, Texas. So thank you to Empty Frames Initiative for all you do and for reminding us that creativity and community can truly transform lives. I encourage you to check out their work at fillingemptyframes.org. Now, let's get back to the show. My hope is that this episode gives you language for what you've lived through or what you've witnessed, and that it reminds you how you started does not determine how you build a life worth living. If you've ever asked, so what do I do now? I hope you know it's okay not to have all the answers today. Take one step at a time. Healing and connection are built step by step. And if you're supporting young people or adults with foster care experience, know this: your presence matters more than perfection. Just that consistent showing up. What young people need most is for someone to stay and, again, continue to show up even after the case file closes. So, with that, before we close, I want to take a moment to pray with you. Father God, I lift up every listener right now. Those who have aged out and still carry the weight of what now? And those who are called to walk alongside them. I pray for healing where there are holes in the foundation, for comfort where there has been loss, and for wisdom to know that their story is not over, that you hold the pen. Remind them that they are seen, loved, and not alone. May you place steady voices and open doors in their path, and may they find the courage to keep building, one step at a time. In Jesus' holy name, amen. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever faced a moment in life where that question, what do I do now? Or what now? Echoed loudly in your own heart? Was it after you aged out or a different time? How did you navigate it, and who walked it with you? I invite you to journal about this and to engage with me on social media, on Instagram at Quijada-Banks. The spelling will be on wherever you're listening on the podcast. You'll be able to see my name, but it's just Angela Quijada-Banks, or on LinkedIn at Angela Banks. So I look forward to hearing from you. You've been listening to the Fostering AfterCare Podcast. If you are enjoying Season 1, then I want to invite you to write a short review on the platform you're listening in so others can find this podcast. Right now, under the Long Way Home theme, we are exploring the quiet, complicated grief that follows us after aging out of foster care. If something in today's episode resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, even when the road feels long, you don't have to walk it alone. So, until next time, take care.